And it's because when someone is hesitant but not completely closed off in the end, psychologically, it translates to us having the feeling that we are about to achieve something. So, of course, if I desire something that I feel is just within arm's reach, just requires a little effort on my part, then I am very inclined to take action. That's why when we feel, that is to say, if I, for example, notice that someone doesn't like me, or that I like them, or that they are not attracted to me, we are going to be much less likely to take actions to try to somehow convince this person to be with me. However, if I do notice that there is some chemistry, some feeling, some predisposition on the part of the person, but there's just a little something missing. So, since it's just a little bit, why not take the initiative and do it myself? The problem is, the moment I try to convince, things change. Because the moment I need to make efforts, whether it's showing off something to try to impress you, or making some move to get your attention, or, in short, whatever I do, what ultimately comes across in my behavior, even if it's not what I intend, is insecurity. It's insecurity, and it's showing that somehow I have to compensate. And if I have to compensate for something, it's because I'm not on your level. That is to say, maybe the person didn't perceive it that way. Maybe they were just going at a different pace. Maybe they just weren't as sure. But the moment they see from us that attempt to convince, from that point on, things change. From that point on, they indeed start to feel, to believe that they are above us. That's why it's so important to understand that when I'm in a situation like this, where I feel that there's something there, but the other person isn't quite sure, it's like they're not fully convinced. It's absolutely essential that for them to finally lean, so to speak, towards us being the best option, we have to show ourselves not insecure, but on the contrary, more confident than ever. That's where our confidence must not waver. It's a critical moment. It's a key moment. It's a moment where, as I always explain, at the beginning of getting to know someone, the attraction is still fragile. That is to say, almost any action, in quotes, makes us feel more connected to the person or feel that we are creating more connection. But it can also happen that certain actions suddenly make the attraction disappear and we think that no, it's not a good idea. And since we haven't invested that much time, so to speak, in detaching ourselves, we can't. We don't see it as that relevant. So for that reason, this is one of the important inflection points, because that's where we are going to establish roles. That is to say, if I really come to convince, I start going after you, the roles will be assigned. I will be here and you will be there. You are not on my level. Being with you would be like settling. On the other hand, if at that moment I am able to maintain that calm, to not succumb to, I have you within reach. Because the moment I reach out to grab it, this thing that's here won't stay here. It will move away. So if I am able to not succumb to that pull of decision, but rather keep myself more firm than ever, I maintain that calm of saying, look, I don't have to convince anyone. What I reflect is self-confidence. That is to say, no, I am not beneath you. Maybe you haven't seen yet what I have to offer, but since I do see it, and I do know it, I am not willing to have to compensate for anything. In fact, I'll tell you more. Usually, the best way to overcome minimal reluctance, if the person is very doubtful or not clear at all, it takes a bit more effort. But when sometimes they are at minimal reluctance, rest assured that the most effective and clear way to resolve this is often simply by cooling down a bit. Really, I would tell you to be very clear before meeting this person or knowing anyone that when you feel that impulse, meaning things might be going well, we're getting to know each other, I'm attracted to this person, I attract them, but at a given moment, I notice that reluctance. I feel that they are not convinced. A desire arises in me to say, I want to do something to get closer, to shorten the distance. I want to do something that makes the other person confirm that they do like me because I'm feeling insecure. I'm not feeling well. At that moment when I feel the impulse to take action, the best action you can take at that instant is to cool down. That is to say, I always recommend in consultations, if at that moment you say, wow, what is it that impatience is getting the better of me? What do I want to contact? What do I want to propose? What do I need to find out? What do I want to make such a post? So that the person sees me and I feel more secure with myself externally. Because I'm not feeling secure at all internally. I say, don't do that. If you can, take yourself. Go to the mountains for a day, okay? To a place where there's no coverage, or make a plan with certain people that you know will keep you very distracted. That is to say, at that moment, what you need is sometimes just a few hours. I'm not telling you that you have to leave for a month. Sometimes it's enough to simply disconnect from this for a few hours. You can truly say, I don't have to do anything. It's not my responsibility. I don't have to do anything. I trust myself. I know my worth. I know I'm worth it. I know that if this person, well, leans towards realizing that there's potential here, well, then something really cool could develop between us. However, if they don't see it, it's not up to me. That is to say, I trust that I have seen enough that if I believed something could come out of this, okay? But if at this moment I notice reluctance, what reignites attraction the most? What most tips? That internal balance of the other person who might indeed be weighing things. It's that we don't like to believe it, right? It makes us uncomfortable. It makes us sad to think that maybe a person, that we see it very clearly, that it excites us, that we are on the way to falling in love. Well, it bothers us to imagine that maybe this person, well, yes, might have seen something that doesn't convince them as much. Or we don't know their circumstances. Maybe it's someone who is still dragging something along or such, or there's someone on their mind, or they met us and see things they like and feel, but they also see things they're not sure about. It can happen, but if it is happening, if they are deliberating, you don't have to interrupt that deliberation because it's the worst thing you can do. As I say, at that moment, what will make the attraction rise again? What will make that person feel inclined to seek you out is for you to cool off. Because by giving that space, that margin, in the end, the person within their deliberation, if they end up seeking you out, is aware that they have done so. So let's say they have cleared up their own doubt. It's like saying, for example, oh, well, that's it. For a couple of days, you notice that the person is colder. And that morning, instead of going and saying good morning as usual or trying to force the conversation awkwardly, you say, well, I'll step back, as I said, make a plan, withdraw, really try to escape, right? And that person might say, phew, look, not so bad, because I'm not sure at all. Because it's true that I've been unsure for a few days, but now the hours go by. And now there are times, as I said, in hours, their internal dialogue starts to change. It's like, oh, I didn't expect them not to look for me. What do I do? Do I contact them? No, it doesn't matter. I wasn't sure anyway. I'll wait. Surely this person will contact me in a while. But time passes and no, they don't contact. And then they might decide, well, let's see how it goes. The simple fact that this person is the one who is going to look for you, it's like within their doubt, they are realizing that they are leaning towards you. And if at that moment when they look for you, even being a bit tricky, but to solidify this, you have the patience to let them wait a little for you, it's not so bad. So that they connect with the idea and realize a bit, hey, this person is not guaranteed. I am here so immersed in weighing whether they convince me or not. And I haven't stopped to think that this person might also be considering whether this is worth it for them or not. It's not like they've already said yes to me. And this, which seems so simple because seen from the outside, it's like, oh, it's just a few hours. It's not that complicated. It's not asking for much. In practice, it's complicated. Why? Because you are realizing that it's not like being fine one day. Suddenly you're a few hours without the person, which you see as feasible. For you, it's not just a few hours. For you, it's feeling like you're distancing yourself at a moment when you feel this is critical. That is to say, you notice the reluctance, which drives you to want to convince the person, to pursue them, to go after them. Many times it can lead you to despair. It also depends a lot on your type of attachment. If you have anxious attachment, or if you have felt rejected and connect with other moments in your life when you have felt that way, you can end up feeling very bad. I mean, this can be experienced as very torturous and with a lot of intensity. That uncertainty that what's going to happen. When will I hear from them? Could it be that I'm not imagining it? Could it be that the resistance, the desire to seek out the person? This is why, even though for a few hours I'm aware that I present it, and it seems like it's actually hard for you to go 7 hours without communicating, it's not 7 hours. You interpret it as if with every passing moment you are drifting apart. Because at that moment you are aware that you disconnect. And the more you disconnect, the more you notice this as a distance. And you think that in that interval, the person with your distance will end up deciding to say, well, if they're not here trying to get my attention, if they're not here looking for me, then why bother? I let it be. And it's not like that. That's what your mind tells you due to that desperation. And that's why you need to have that mental control, to see clearly and stop to realize or maybe pull back. I think it helps a lot because it's hard to learn from someone else's experience in moments where we might have found ourselves in a similar situation, feeling a bit doubtful, okay, and someone insists on us, which ends up making us not like them. Or maybe if we've seen someone who insisted on us and then changed, how that affected our interest, our desire to pursue, or our desire for this to lead somewhere. So really, don't see this, don't live it as something so drastic, so definitive. That is to say, when you distance yourself, the good thing is that when you distance yourself, you are the one who can come back closer. I'm not saying you should do it. What I'm saying is that you have to frame it this way. That is to say, it's important that you understand that cooling things down is not just about not reaching out, but anxiously suffering. Rather, it's about not reaching out. And in that moment of cooling down, also trying to return a bit to myself, to my calm, to reconsider why I think this is so relevant and to disconnect. And when I can, maybe that anxiety or insecurity, remind myself that it's not that serious, I can. Just as I have distanced myself, reach out to the person again if that's what I want. For a few hours, it's not like they will disappear from the map, even if it's a day or two. We really have to understand this is a bit like salt. It's preferable to add less, and if you need to add more, you always have time to do so. But once you've salted the dish, it's salted. So, in the beginnings of a relationship, especially when we notice reluctance, truly never fear giving less because you can always smooth that out. Now, if you overwhelm the person and they end up losing interest, it's more complicated. Never lose sight of the fact that we convey more of what is than what we would like. That is to say, I may intend to show this person through my actions that I am very confident that the best thing they can do is be with me. But if inside I am not feeling that way, if I am feeling the complete opposite, unfortunately, I will convey much more of my real feeling than what I deliberately intend to convey. So that's why it's so important to understand, if I've become destabilized, if I want to perceive no. The most important thing now is to feel secure again. Because if I do, the other person will perceive that security. And if they perceive my security, it is much more likely that they will ultimately want to keep moving forward. Or they might choose me, or get back in touch, or seek me out, or we can make up for this. Really? Yes. Well, I hope this video is helpful to you, that you liked it. If so, and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, of course I invite you to do so. Hit the bell, because I would love for us to see each other again very soon. And until then, as always, I send you a big kiss.